The old man often said that time is like water in your hands. Once it slips through your fingers, you can never gather it again. His name was Daniel Morrow, and he had learned this truth the hard way. Daniel was born in a small town near the quiet hills of Virginia. His parents were hard-working people who believed that diligence was the key to success. His father used to tell him, "The early bird catches the worm," and his mother would gently remind him, "Make hay while the sun shines." But young Daniel paid little attention to these words of wisdom. To him, life was long, and tomorrow seemed endless. When Daniel was a boy, he was intelligent and full of potential. His teachers often said he had a sharp mind and a quick tongue. However, he also had a dangerous habit: procrastination. He always believed there would be another day, another chance, another opportunity. Instead of studying, he would spend hours playing video games, wandering around town, or simply lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling, daydreaming about a bright future that required no effort. "Why rush?" he would say to his friend Marcus. "Life is not a race." Marcus, who was more disciplined, would shake his head. "Daniel, time and tide wait for no man." But Daniel laughed. He thought Marcus was too serious. He thought hard work was for people who lacked talent. Deep down, he believed that success would fall into his lap without much effort. In high school, Daniel continued to waste his time. He skipped classes, ignored assignments, and barely passed his exams. When teachers warned him that he was throwing his future away, he shrugged. "I will figure it out later," he said confidently. Later never came. After graduation, Marcus went to college. He studied engineering and worked part-time to support himself. Meanwhile, Daniel chose the easy road. He took temporary jobs, but never stayed long. Whenever work became difficult, he quit. He preferred short-term pleasure to long-term achievement. As the saying goes, he was living from hand to mouth. Years passed like leaves carried away by the wind. In his 20s, Daniel still believed he had plenty of time. He spent nights at parties, laughing loudly, making promises he never kept. He surrounded himself with friends who also avoided responsibility. They often said, "You only live once," using it as an excuse for carelessness. But life is not as forgiving as youth. By the time Daniel reached his 30s, reality began to knock at his door. His parents were aging. Bills were piling up. His temporary jobs no longer satisfied him, yet he lacked the skills and education for better opportunities. He felt trapped, like a bird in a cage of his own making. One evening, he met Marcus at a cafe. Marcus was well-dressed, confident, and successful. He spoke about his projects, his travels, and his family with quiet pride. Daniel forced a smile, but inside, his heart sank. After Marcus left, Daniel sat alone, staring into his cold coffee. For the first time, he felt a heavy weight in his chest. He realized that while Marcus had been planting seeds, he had been wasting the fertile soil of his youth. Time had not stood still. In his 40s, Daniel's regrets grew deeper. His father passed away, and during the funeral, he remembered his father's words, "Make hay while the sun shines." Tears rolled down his face, not only because of grief, but also because of guilt. He had ignored the advice that could have saved him from disappointment.
Daniel attempted to change. He enrolled in evening classes and tried to learn new skills. However, balancing work, study, and responsibility was much harder than he had imagined. What he could have learned easily in his youth now required double the effort. He felt like a man trying to climb a mountain with tired legs. Still, he persisted for a while. But his progress was slow. Employers preferred younger candidates with fresh degrees. Daniel felt as though he was always one step behind. By the time he reached his 60s, Daniel lived in a small apartment. His hair was gray, and his hands trembled slightly when he held a cup of tea. He often sat by the window, watching children run and laugh in the park across the street. Their energy reminded him of his own lost years. Regret is a bitter companion. One afternoon, a young boy from the neighborhood greeted him. The boy was curious and full of life, much like Daniel once had been. They began to talk regularly. The boy shared his dreams of becoming a doctor. Daniel listened carefully. "Do you think I can do it?" the boy asked one day. Daniel looked into the boy's bright eyes and felt a deep ache in his heart. "Yes," he replied slowly, "but only if you value your time. Do not waste it in vain. Time is more precious than gold." The boy frowned. "What do you mean?" Daniel took a deep breath. For the first time, he spoke openly about his past. He described the opportunities he had ignored, the advice he had rejected, and the years he had squandered. He admitted that he had chosen comfort over discipline and pleasure over purpose. "I thought I had all the time in the world," he said softly. "But time is a silent thief. It steals your youth without asking permission." The boy listened attentively. "If I could turn back the clock," he continued, "I would rise early. I would study harder. I would respect my parents' wisdom. I would invest in my future instead of gambling it away. Remember this: a stitch in time saves 9. As the sun began to set, golden light filled the room. Daniel felt both sadness and relief. Sadness for what he had lost, and relief because he could still share his lesson. In his final years, Daniel became known as the wise old man of the neighborhood. Though he lacked wealth and status, he possessed something else: understanding. Young people often visited him to seek advice. He always told them the same truth: "Your future is built today. Do not wait for tomorrow. The road to success is paved with discipline, not excuses." On a quiet winter morning, Daniel passed away peacefully in his sleep. The news spread through the community. Many remembered his words and the sincerity in his voice. At his small funeral, the young boy, now a serious student preparing for medical school, stood beside the grave. He whispered, "I will not waste my time in vain." Daniel's life had been filled with regret, yet his story became a warning and a guide for others. Though he could not rewrite his own past, he helped shape the future of those who listened. Time is a gift, but it is also a test. Every second is an opportunity that may never return. If you spend your days in laziness and delay, you may one day look back with sorrow. But if you use your time wisely, you will reap the rewards of diligence and perseverance. As the proverb says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Therefore, do not waste your time in vain. Life is short, and the clock never stops ticking. Do not be shy. Tell us where you are watching from, share, subscribe, and don't forget your comment, please.